here we are again on our home page for our SharePoint. In the last video we had a look at how to share files in SharePoint, whether it was sharing with staff internally or with external suppliers. What I want to look at today is how you can view those share settings that you've done and how you can actually alter the permissions or remove the sharing on a file if required. So what we're going to do to begin with is just come down, click on the shared documents, and we're going to come over to a file that's currently shared, and I'm going to go right click the file and go to share. Now this is the screen we had a little earlier where we were able to go through and actually share the file. What I want to do this time is come over on the left hand side and select shared with, and this is going to show me a list of current users who have access to this particular file. Now what I could do is actually come and select stop sharing. However, what this will actually do is remove all of the shares on that file except for owners of that file. So the person who's created it or your administrator will generally remain having access, but all other permissions will be removed. So that can be quite a dangerous option. What we would prefer to do is come over and click advanced. And what we can see is this document has unique permissions, and we can actually see here anyone who has access to this file. Notice we're not seeing two of the names we saw earlier, and that's because those two are actually owners of the file and they'll always have permission to that file. Now what I can see here is that there's a user named temp. The type is a user. You'd also see external users or groups in here, and currently the temp user can edit. What I could do is tick on that temp user, and along the top ribbon here I have edit user permissions. This is going to take me to a new screen, and I have a number of different permissions I can select here. So effectively this is going to run on a little bit of a hierarchy, with the highest permissions on the top and the lowest possible permissions on the bottom. So currently we're quite high along the top of the list with edit permissions, and we've got a little bit of a blurb here saying we can add, edit, delete, view, add, update, etc. Coming through you can see there's a full control, which means the user has full control. I can come down even further and just say no, they're only a contributor, or they can only read the file, or only view the file. So there's a few different options here, so I might decide that temp should only be allowed to view this file, in which case I could untick edit and tick view only. So we can see here we're going from can add, edit, delete, and we're changing it to can view pages, list items and documents. So really we're changing it that they can't edit, delete or change that file, and instead they can only view the file. So once that's ticked, all we do is come over and select OK. And we're back on the screen we had earlier. We can see that the permission levels changed from edit to view only to reflect the change that we've made. If I was to simply go back now, we could continue working as we were, and that temp user would only be able to view the file as opposed to edit the file. If I decide that I don't want that particular user to have access to the file at all anymore, I could just tick it and simply click remove user permissions along the top ribbon. I'm going to be prompted for are you sure you want to remove this user from this document? Just going to hit OK. And now we can see that there's no items to show in the view, as there's no other users who have access to this file. Another handy feature here is you can actually select check permissions, And this is just if you really want to check on a particular permission. So I could type the user temp in here, hit check now, and we actually get a little blurb on the bottom, permission level given to temp, and we'll get the email address temp@ONGC. None. So that's because we've just removed those permissions, that the user now has no permissions. In the same way that we were sharing a file earlier, in this advanced screen I could actually go grant permissions, and we're back to a very similar screen that we had earlier. I'm going to go back to edit like it was, don't want to send them an email invite. And we're more or less back to where we began this video. If I was now to go check permissions, type in temp again, and check now. This will reflect now again temp@ONGC, now has edit given directly on this file. So that has been altering permissions in SharePoint. And as you can see, it's quite flexible for the end user to share files or retract those permissions, as SharePoint gives much more control to the end user than what you traditionally have had in the past. Thank you for joining me. My name is Dennis, and have a great day.